Welcome everybody to a new Legal Creatives talk show today with a special guest who's going to talk about what is it like to be a legal design expert practitioner. This means today you will be learning a little bit about the journey that goes with becoming a full-time legal designer. What does a legal designer do every single day in the day-to-day life, and how is it like to get there, and once you're there, what's next? So stay here for a special show with our special guest.
Intelligence will came from
And here we are with Marty Finestone live. Hi, Marty.
Hello. Wow, I haven't seen that introduction, or that trailer or opening bumper before. That was awesome.
I hope you liked it. This is great. So Marty is from Canada. He's a legal design expert practitioner, founder of Legal Agency. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, and what you do?
Sure. So, yeah, my name is Marty Finestone. I currently operate my own consultancy called Legal Adjacency, which you can see up there, and I got my mug here for subtle product placement. So what I do is I now call myself a lawyer and legal designer, first and foremost. So I was in private practice since 2007, and then just before the pandemic, I started a consultancy to focus on helping small in-house legal teams introduce legal technology operations and basically thrive. And that would be through, I guess I never position it as I provide these services, but more I solve these problems, or it could help you with X, Y, Z. So that's sort of the quick on the professional side. But today, what I do is through the help of legal creatives, I've crystallized everything under legal design. So maybe that's a lot to put out there. I'll pause and see if there's anything you want to grab onto and.
I love that. I love that intro. And whoever's watching live right now, please let us know where you're tuning in from so you can make this interactive as well. And you can share this with your audience so they can join us live and they can get to learn a little bit about Marty Finestone, what he does as a legal designer, what does it look like to be a legal designer full time. So Marty, you have been able to crystallize everything in the legal design kind of bubble. What do you mean by everything? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So, well, what legal design has helped me do is pull together different elements or connect dots from my background, my interests, and I'll in a second go into those. And so knowing that, having the theory behind it, and having the toolkit that's what's crystallized everything. And then it's sort of like, yes, this is it. This is what I've been missing, or this brings it all together so I could do what I want to do because it nourishes my soul. It goes to what I love to do. So when I talk about my background, I designed my first website in 1995. So that's pretty early in the days of called the mainstream web. So not the early days of the web, but the mainstream web. So I've always been interested in gadgets, new technology, really got into computers and but not like hardcore. Like HTML is really the only code language I know. I'll confess that. I don't know Java. I don't know SQL or Python or anything. Like in school, we did a little bit of Turing and some basic stuff. But I always loved the aesthetics. So it was the design part of it that appealed to me. And doing graphics, doing my own graphic design work. Fast forward a bit into the later the 90s. I was working when I was in undergrad. I was working for the university I was at, and I would build websites for professors. So there were course websites. And being a student, I kind of put myself in my own shoes, or the student's shoes, the user, and would sort of guide the professors in terms of what to do based on user needs, or at least my perceived user needs, selfishly. So I've always been in that design element. A little more about this program. So my undergraduate was in a program called, it's still called Media, Information, and Technoculture. So it was a brand new program at the University of Western Ontario, and it was a true liberal arts program that brought together sociology, communication theory, a little bit of English studies, language studies, media theory, political economy of information. Internet culture is really, although they called it cyber culture, because we were calling the internet cyberspace, and we were thinking about, is it a place, is it a there, and things like that. So within those early days, but there was a course, a law course for everyone in this program. It was taught by Professor Ian Kerr, and he was a law professor and a philosophy professor, and he was very young. Like, he practiced law for maybe a year. He kind of went to school to help him on his interest while he was doing his PhD in law, or PhD in philosophy, and he really made the law approachable. So we learned the core pillars of law, but would bring it in an interesting way. So, for example, when we were doing intellectual property, we would learn about music sampling as a way to sort of talk about licensing and rights and things. And we would bring up issues that were happening in the world through media. At the time, Napster had just really kind of come out. So we would talk about new tech. I'm like, this law stuff's really interesting. Instead of continue on thinking I was going to go to business school and do marketing or sort of strategy, I was thinking, this law is interesting. I'm going to go pivot that way and write the LSAT, see how that goes. And that did all right, and then went to the University of Ottawa because it had a technology law focus, and this professor actually had just switched to that law school, so I kind of followed him along, and always had that interest in bringing that tech interest with the law. Now, something else that I'll plant a seed for a little later when I get to bring everything together. At that time, because I was doing a lot of web design, I very much thought in what we called then a hypertext way. So if I was doing an essay for most of my courses, I wasn't giving a standard paragraph linear structure. If I had a side thought, I would actually put a column on the side and put that thought on the side. I would use graphics. I would use quotes in sort of a different way. It's because I was thinking hypertext and not just that linear narrative fashion, but tangents and layers upon layers and background. So I guess the closest thing we have traditional academia to that is footnotes, where you kind of put that aside thought in a footnote, but it was presenting it in a very much more forward kind of way. And then I tried doing one of those in a mediation course in law school, and well, my grade, the grade didn't go so well with that paper. So I guess that shut me up and said, all right, I better play the game and give them what they want here. And that kind of goes to legal design and know your audience. So we get through law school. I articled at the CRTC. So that is Canada's Telecommunications and Broadcasting Regulator. That gave me a great insight being in a regulator and thinking through the issues. Then I went into private practice, or did a master's of law, again, focusing on technology issues. And then went to private practice doing tech work. So I came to Waterloo because it was BlackBerry was here, and BlackBerry was big at the time. And there were a lot of startups, and it was a great place to do technology law. So that was corporate law for technology companies, but then I had a big licensing practice, IT outsourcing. So you had to know the technology and know how these things work to actually properly address the legal issues. So very much sort of, yesterday in the mastermind, we were talking about those different modes of thinking. You brought that up, Tessa. And so very much that sort of first mode one, and didn't step out until I reached a point in my career where I actually got burnout. And that burnout tipped over some genetic mental health issues that never had, or predispositions to some mental health matters that had never existed before, or if not existed, but didn't get in my way. And so tipped me over, and I needed to take a break, and did that and focused on myself. And then once I was on the other side and in a much better space, start to think, what do I want to do with my life? What did I want to do with my career? I knew going back to the client-facing role of private practice and the demands of a big law firm, billable hour, wasn't for me. And I wrote down, started to think, what are the things I like to do? What are those core elements? So helping people, pointing out new and cool things to people, saying, hey, check this out. I love mentoring. I love problem solving. I love coming at things with sort of thinking in a non-binary way. So as opposed to thinking that there's only two ways, two options always to do something. No, it's thinking for that third or fourth alternative. Very much used that back in the design days. And so launched Legal Adjacency, which was to help small in-house departments thrive. And that would be more from a tech and legal operations perspective. As I was going along, I became more interested in some contract improvement and a couple other things. And then I found legal design. I was like, that's it. That totally makes sense. I knew about design thinking. I knew about empathy and iteration and ideation, but I never thought to bring it into those sort of principles and those sort of cores to the legal function. And that was my big aha. And then I saw you were doing the certification course, and I signed up because I was like, yes, this is perfect. And so glad I did, because it brought everything together. I now bring in those that graphic design background, that aesthetic design, visual design background. But at the same time, we talk a lot about information design, information presentation. So that was one of the courses I took in my undergrad program. So I think those who've been here and just have seen me comment talking about chart junk and other sort of information theory and information design theory. So, I still have nuggets of those from the background and bring that in. So it pulls together a lot from that undergrad, pulls together what I did in my legal practice, and then pulls together what I love to do otherwise and brings it all together. And it's kind of really remarkable to look back and see how all those things now fit together in a really fantastic way. And legal design is the way for that for me.
That is such an inspiring story, Marty. I see we have Isabel live who says that's the eureka moment.
Yes.
This is so great. What a journey. 1995 doing web design and going to law school, getting a master, moving to Waterloo, doing tech law, and today bringing everything together with legal design. You've also mentioned taking a certification with us. You are such a. I love the way you. It's just such an amazing story. But what's so amazing is that you don't stop. You keep learning. You keep investing in your toolkit. Having a good toolkit, because even if you have an astounding profile, you're still learning. And I would be super curious to know. And this is a creative question, so be ready. Legal creatives, you've taken the certification. If you were to find a tagline for legal creatives, and maybe especially the certification, what would it be, the tagline for you?
Oh, let's see. For me, good tagline. Do you like puns? Maybe I should think of a pun.
I love puns. Yeah.
Love puns. All right. Well, I guess legal creatives helping you be creatively legal.
Creatively legal. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Maybe, no, I got to come up with better than that. I'll keep it in the back of my mind as we talk. But I think really what I got out of it, or still get out of it, is it's well, there was that theory and the tools from that. So it's the toolkit to a nourishing way to come to the law. And I love how you talked about still learning the toolkit, because I consider myself, really, I thought about this last week, I consider myself a remixer. So I don't know a deep amount about things in some things when it comes to, say, information design, or I'm a self-taught graphic designer, so I don't know all the UX theory, but I pick up little pieces here and there and I remix it into what I do. And at the end of the result, it seems to work. People are happy with the solutions, and I'm proud of the work I do too. So I think it's good stuff. But in a way, that's where I call myself a remixer, because I take a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, spin it around to create something kind of new. So yeah.
I think artists are all remixers. Do you mean that do you consider yourself an artist too, Marty? I have a feeling you have some artistic vibe and maybe work you have produced.
Yeah. So again, sort of self-found, self-taught. I've done some abstract painting on acrylic for a few years, and I had a gallery show, but that kind of went away for a lot of years, in part because I don't really have a good space to do that kind of work anymore. But I've gotten into this year doing designer toys. So these are like those familiar with Kid Robot, the Munnies and Dunny dolls, and getting blanks of those. So yeah, kind of tease. So these come blank as
Wow.
white, and so I've done.
Show it again. It was
Oh, I've got a
beautiful.
few, yeah. So this one's just chrome reflective. Then we have this
How
sort
do
of.
you make them? Like, keep us showing. It's so beautiful. How do you do that? Do you remix too?
So these I use paint markers, and so I'll use paint markers as sort of the medium. So this is a different one I've done. I got one more to show.
Wow, such beautiful
here.
art. Love this.
I guess my lighting kind of kills some of the color of this, because that's supposed to be
great.
neon green. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, and I do try and bring in. Well, talk about creativity. Like if you go to my company website, legaladjacency.com, I did that design. So I didn't outsource that. I didn't hire someone else. That's my design. Wasn't a template. So
wow, that's fantastic. I'm so inspired by your story, Marty.
Yeah.
And so you using everything now into this bubble of legal design that is so much more than a bubble. It's because you were talking about, I remember you were talking about Napster and I don't remember the other one. Now we're moving into the metaverse. I mean, like we're moving into a completely new world. Facebook is changing its name. We're moving from Napster to the metaverse, and everything is connected, and it looks exciting and scary at the same time. If we go back down to earth, what does it mean for you to be a full-time legal design expert practitioner?
Sure. Yeah.
What do you do? What are your days like? Tell us a little bit more about that. I'm super curious to know.
So, I think legal design is a label. Some people see that who don't know, they get restricted by it and think design, they think aesthetics. But really, it's the short form for legal design thinking, and take off legal. What's design thinking? It's thinking like a designer, who is someone who's designing solutions to problems or creating products or services that are responsive to a user's needs. And so in the work I do, where there's a problem, as I said, I don't like to present that I do services, but I solve problems. So if there's a problem statement of X, well, we got to look at that and see, is that really the problem, or is there a root cause? So there's that piece of the toolkit from the design thinking framework or the legal design framework, but then it's making sure the solution fits the user needs. And this comes into contract drafting. This comes into where my in-house clients working with an external law firm, and they are bringing in billing guidelines to do cost containment. And so it's to make sure how they're looking at the law firm. In this example is the user. How do you communicate that information that's going to be receptive to the law firm user, but then also useful for them? So how does it be useful? You have to have information that's useful for the accounting department, for the relationship partner, to all the other lawyers within the firm who are going to do the work. So you need to convey that in an easy to read and way that can be referenced more and repeatedly too, because people need to check back. But then you have to iterate, because as you go along with the implementation, questions come up, or refinements or improvements are made. And so you revisit, and you want to bring in the feedback from the law firms, the user, to shape the building guidelines. So that's one example of that. So it's really that user-centric approach, being empathetic, and that's first and foremost with that. And then in the work I do, I try and change the mentality for my clients to say, okay, we could always do it this way, but here's how I think you should do it, which is look at the user, and here are the benefits from that.
I love this. And I would love to know, everybody who's watching live or replay, are you also connecting the dots like Marty? How are you connecting the dots? Are you working at the intersection of multiple disciplines? or maybe you're merging different methodologies to create your own. Are you a remixer? Let us know in the chat. We would love to know a little bit more about how you relate to Marty's incredible story. I see people say they're very curious about your story, saying you're still connecting the dots. I think we all are still connecting the dots when we have this creative approach that is really about being open and being curious and being an experimenter, trying new things and saying, do we like this? Does the world enjoy this too? Can we make something great? Yes, let's continue. And if the answer is no, it's okay, well, we just tried something. Let's try something else. How do you feel about that philosophy of trying and failing and having the courage to fail again until you get to really find the little thing that, wow, it's a game and there's something that I can do with this. How do you feel about this, Marty?
Well, I think if anyone is in law, they're a lifelong learner. And so it's just that through that iteration, through that, well, actually, I'll use Bob Ross. Actually, Bob Ross says there's no mistakes, there's just happy accidents. So, I kind of take that to heart, where it's all about learning, or it's about how you reframe things. So don't see it as a problem, don't see it as a failure, but as a way to sort of improve. It's a pathway to improvement or understanding. And as a parent, that's a hard time. My daughter is 8.5, and she doesn't like making mistakes with her homework or her schoolwork. And we're trying to teach her sort of that it's okay. These aren't mistakes. It's all part of learning. And in fact, so my wife and I make a point to talk about the mistakes we make, or call it hiccups, mistakes, whatever word appropriate, to show her that everyone does it. So, but take something from it. So, yeah.
I think there's a change of paradigm. I was brought up and making mistakes was not a good thing, and so I got this to build this belief that I needed to do things perfect, that I needed to be perfect, and because of that, I just refrained myself to do things that I actually allow myself to do today that I really enjoy. And I think this is educational maybe challenge in law. We're not taught that at all in the law school. So the law school reinforced, at least for me, this belief that everything needed to be perfect. We do not allow for mistakes. You have to look perfect too. And there's no such thing as a perfect world, unfortunately. We're all trying to get there. But I think the only perfect thing is the process of being perfect and enjoying this process. And so for you, Marty, as a legal design expert practitioner, what do you think about the certification you took with us? Because I would be super curious to know how it helped you, how it made a difference in your life, and what are the biggest takeaways you get from the training?
Yeah. So before the course, it was around when I just learned that legal design was a thing. But the certification course gave me that intensive exposure to it, but it also helped. So it gave some theory, gave the structure, the framework, the tools for legal design, and it pulled it all together. But what I loved about it was it was all hands-on. So it wasn't a slide deck and just giving the theory and you weren't just talking, but there was that hands-on workshop. And so we were doing the work, we were seeing things in action. And so my biggest takeaway was the format. It really, above all else, not discounting the content, but the format that you brought, and sort of that hands-on where it's a workshop. So that intensive work, what was the biggest piece? Having that toolkit really is the foundation. So it allows me to continue to or not even more than a foundation, but that expertise. But as we talk about lifelong learning, and so I still want to do that and look more, but it really it wasn't a 101 course. It really, it was sort of in that sense. So it wasn't little bits sort of in the sense of just very, very simple touching. We got deep into things. So that was fantastic. And that pulled into when we did the workshop. So gave me that deep understanding to then have the confidence to want to put myself out as a legal designer. Because it's one thing to read some articles, have an understanding, but you need that confidence to say, hey, especially when it's such a still a burgeoning title. Like, it's not too common. People may have an understanding of it. As I said, there's that, I'll argue that it kind of has a bit of a branding problem calling it legal design, but that's neither here nor there, but I digress. But so just coming back to the certification, we've got how it's done. It fits into then Legal Creatives itself with the Academy, so the continuing master classes, the expert talks. That's so enriching to learn about these pieces. We had the one yesterday talking about neuropsychology and how that could come into play. And that comes into user needs, user interactions, and ideation, and that piece. And so just to have that exposure and just these other things, because sometimes it's not front of mind. So just to have the course to even sort of ping the brain, it brings things up, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Another thing I loved about the course was that it was an international student base. So I met people from Algeria, Brazil, France, the UK, other countries, and I keep in touch with a lot of them. So it was just great to meet that cohort. Everyone's coming with a curiosity and a desire to do something different, and tap into that creativity if they can. And so you put all that together. It was just like it seemed meant for me, like it was destiny to do that course. And just to butter your bread a little, Tessa, it was just so well done, and so glad that I did it. And if anyone here hasn't done it yet, I encourage check out Legal Creatives website, or talk to Tessa, or just reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. But it's just such a great community that has come out of it. And so I kind of see the certification as a gateway to getting the most out of this community too.
Yeah, this is such a great feedback. And I have to say the format is my favorite too. And the reason, because I created this format out of a frustration I had myself with boring trainings, where you just feel alone on your laptop, pressing play and watching the video, and having no interaction with the trainer, or limited interaction with the trainer, even less interactions with other participants. And I was like, we need to make this interactive. This is about legal design. This is about collaboration. This is about creativity. This is about the user. We need to be able to do that together. And so this is why I'm so excited giving the feedback about the format, because I did spend a lot of time trying to find a good format, and I'm so happy you enjoyed it. And I think there are some live attendees who are watching right now. I would be super curious to know if you have taken the certification program with Legal Creatives. If you have, let us know right here, right now, right below in the chat. I would love to hear from you. And if you have not taken the program, are you going to take it? Because it's happening on November 3rd. And that means you have 5 days to make your decision. So I just wanted you to know that you have this opportunity right here, right now on the table to take the certification program and to be a part of the legal design professional community. It's a legal design professional community, which I don't think exists in the world, at least to the best of my knowledge. This is why I got to create it, because it's so valuable to be able to be together and to share experiences. I would be so curious to know, Marty, how are you using this knowledge in your day-to-day work?
So in the day-to-day work, so we take I'll give you a recent example. So I am drafting, I'm doing work with Contract Nerds. So Contract Nerds is sort of an online community around for those who love contracts. And we are partnering up to apply the principles of legal design to the terms of use for the website. So what Nada and I and the founder, we created a survey. So we've gone out and done user research to the Contract Nerds audience to see how do they see website terms of service from two hats. One, when they're just a user of the website or the service, but then also as a lawyer, we asked some questions around that and seeing where the difference is. So we wanted to know, what are the terms that are important to them as a user? Then what do they think the terms are important for an owner of a website, to see where there's some alignment? Ask them their feelings in a way from this was done all in a survey. And so ask them from an emoji way to express, how do you feel about reading these things? What do you see? What are your thoughts generally? So open-ended questions around terms of use. So we've collected this information. So now we know what this audience sees. And so it's taking what would be a traditional terms of use, and making sure we're responding to the where there's a gap from the needs of the audience. So that's just one example when it comes to the design. It's that, and then we're going to iterate. And so we'll have a draft, we'll get some feedback, and we'll do some testing to see, here's the before, here's the after, and we'll ask questions around comparing whether it's readability, usability, engagement, and just sort of a general sense of understanding or enjoyment, even with the two documents, and compare those.
This is great. I see you using a lot of things from the training, especially comparing the before and after, so you can show the outcomes and the improvements of the document. I think that many people who are listening now or watching, may still have the belief that legal design is about the design. It's about doing some kind of graphic work. When, as you have said, Marty, this whole research that needs to be done before you even start to work on the design. And there's the whole testing that needs to be done after, before you actually get to complete your design, to make sure that what you envision to implement is going to work. And I think those two steps are all often too forgotten. They're just forgotten and are skipped in the hope of saving time and saving money. But then you end up with a document that is not necessarily better. It may look more beautiful, it may look nicer, but it's not necessarily better, because until you test it and until you measure it, you don't really know for sure. It's just a subjective perception that it looks better according to you, but maybe it looks slightly better according to someone else. Maybe it doesn't, but is it really more useful, right? And I think this is the point of the certification, is to help you learn the methodology and have the techniques you need to use to interview users, to do this research, to collect the data, to compile the insights, to analyze them, and to be able to create something that will be more useful because it's more effective and you can prove it. And so I don't know what's your take on this, Marty. What do you say to people who say, oh, I just want to learn the tools and make my documents more beautiful? I mean, I don't take away from aesthetic.
No.
I love beautiful things. I mean, if things are more beautiful, for sure, they're more appealing. We're going to be more interested. But it's not just about that, right? What is your take on this, Marty?
Yeah. So I think if the goal is to make something better, you have to know what that better is and who the better is for. So in this example, the audience are lawyers. So kind of have some stereotypes, if you will, around what lawyers are, what they look for, but it's also a more intelligent audience. Sorry, not intelligent, more experience with contract audience. That's probably the better way to say it.
Yeah, let's say they're more expert on the topic.
So we don't need to go too low on a language level. But at the same time, there's a disdain for legalese, as we learned for the user testing. And so from there, the better is about the content, not necessarily about the look. It's the content where they had a lot of the problems with. So better here has to do with making it more balanced, accessible, engage, and simple language, concise. And so that's what the audience wants to see, and that will make it better for them. So it's not an aesthetic. Just because, as you said, something looks pretty doesn't mean it's good. What's the old expression? Like, it's all sizzle, no steak. You got to have the steak, you got to have the meat there and have the essence of it. So really, in this case, I use this in a lot of ways too. When it comes to contract design work, it's not an aesthetic. It's almost like presenting a mindset for how you approach the contract. It needs to respond to the user. And so there with contracts, it's if let's say it's a customer contract, that contract should be looked at a way as this is on the customer journey map. This encounter with legal is all part of the sales cycle and getting a prospect to customer. And so you need to bring in service design understandings into how that contracting process is going to look. But then within the language, you want to make sure that language of the contract and the tone of the contract reflect the company's brand, vision, and values. Because if you're saying, hey, our service is all, it's so easy to use, we're so friendly, you're going to love working with us, but then your contract's all one-sided in the direction of the vendor, and it uses convoluted legalese because that's just what either that's what was there for whatever reason that became the contract. That doesn't reflect what you're saying your product and your experience and working with your company is. So there's a disconnect there. So that's an example of sort of bringing it, well, better is not just aesthetics. It's about so much more from the and just the short form is there's the being that contract being accessible, engaging, and usable to the people who are actually going to use it and live with it. So that's one example of, yeah, it's not aesthetics, and you got to know what does better mean, and there's a lot of different ways to think about it. So coming back to the toolkit, you can't just take the course and that's it, or say, I just want to know about the design, I want to know about user experience, and just how to make what are some quick fixes or some quick tips to make things look good. Well, that's going to get you maybe one out of a fraction of where it can be to actually make a document that works and is completely usable, and it reduces risks when we're talking about contracts. Same thing when it comes to access to justice and other facets. So yeah, because legal design, we've got so much, right? It could be to legal services, it could be to processes that lawyers are going to use in terms of how they deliver legal service, or just on the back end to access to justice issues, legal information. And I'll just pause there.
That's so amazing. I love it. There's so many opportunities. And I think this is what's so interesting in 2021, after the pandemic, we're still in the midst of this. What's been really surprising is so many legal designers got to actually land new jobs, get to work on new projects, got to sometimes even get to coordinate courses on the topic. And I think this is so fascinating because, like, we say, hey, things got more difficult. Well, it seems that things got a little easier for legal designers because at least the way I read the world is, it seems like we got to realize that the way we do things traditionally is not necessarily the most effective way, and that it may be a good thing to change since the world completely changed. And I think from your story, Marty, what I really like is like everything you're able to achieve and the vision you have. Couldn't we say that a legal designer is an agent that is connecting everything together and aligning on the vision to really achieve something that is meaningful, tangible? If you agree with me, I would love to hear your point of view. If you disagree, I would love to know why. But I see a little bit the legal designer as someone who is really a little bit like a external viewpoint, but at the same time at the center of everything to connect and to bring people together to create an amazing experience of the law for law firms, legal departments, or institutions.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I know you have some improv training, so I'll do, my answer is yes and. So yes, definitely to the connecting the dots, but the and is also is that I think, well, at least for me, and I probably universal, is that it's good about you zoom out. So you're going to zoom out from a situation, zoom out from a problem, and then sort of see that there are these other elements at play. Those are the dots you have to connect, and then connect them. So that's the and, is knowing to zoom out and then connecting those dots and pulling it together, and then just thinking creativity. So definitely, I think the marketplace or the world is more receptive to doing things differently. Maybe we would have got to this point, but it might have taken 10 years without the pandemic and the change, and realizing that just having that snapped out of it from like we shouldn't just do something just because that's always it's been done. But someone with the legal design, a big part of it is the mindset for always questioning the status quo, thinking about things differently, trying new ideas, or just putting them out there, brainstorming, and willing to try something quick and dirty just to see if it might work. And so it's a great mindset for to work with, where the how things are changing out there. Yeah.
Now, this is fantastic. I think it's the glue that brings everything together. And even if that you said doing things quick and dirty, I agree to that as well. But that's, you have a vision. There's a reason why you do that quickly, because it's about testing and you validating whether you have the right tools in place to achieve the vision, right? And so I think legal design is a very strategic position, and I can't wait to see more legal designers in the world. I think we really need that. People are tired of complexity. People want clarity in the workplace. People are tired with really long and difficult procedures that are very difficult to implement because they're so hard to understand. And sometimes they may be easy to understand, but they're just so complex. There's just so many steps that needs to be taken. And that slows down the business, that slows down decision making. And legal design is about bringing more effectiveness into also the workplace, the way the services are delivered. So ultimately, the ultimate goal is to help the customer, bring value to the customer, and I think this is something that is going to be a game changer. I was reading about UX again yesterday, user experience, the research, and it's the figures are here. You can get to save 100 times if you have empathy for your users. So you avoid the mistakes right in the beginning, because fixing mistakes is really tough. I almost got to work on a project recently on fixing a big project, big mistake, and it was just so much work. You cannot fix a mistake like this, like magic. You have to go back to the entire process. And anyway, I'm just getting so excited about this talk, Marty.
Yeah. And that's why we want to try things quick and dirty, is because if you're doing it quickly, simply, you're not investing a lot of time to get, whereas if you were trying to get it to a more polished phase before you went and tested it, and you're not investing a lot of money. So it's easier to try again. It's easier to refine because it isn't that mindset of, oh, well, we're 80% of our budget's already spent. We just have to see it through. And then it fails or it doesn't work as well. So if you spent a fraction on the budget and did something on, let's say, just paper and test it, you kind of get there. And so, yeah, it's that piece where you're going to meet the users. And just talking about something else, you were talking about the service piece and how changing things up. One of the things I advocate for is through experiences. So I kind of have three pillars in my consultancy. One is simplifying contracts through contract design. The other is simplifying legal operations. And the third is experiences. So helping legal departments thrive through experiences. There's a lot of ways that could come up. One example is when it comes to legal training for the business units. So turn content into more of an experience. That could be from, instead of writing out an answer or doing a slide deck, turn into a podcast, or do a mock negotiation using your company's standard form contract to explain why things are going to be negotiated a certain way, or explain as you go, this is what an indemnity really means, or this is why we want this representation of warranty to stay in this agreement. And so through experience, you could change how people are going to interact with the law. And the examples I gave are within sort of that corporate environment, but it could be the same thing from a service delivery standpoint too. How do people provide that information? What if you brought in video as a way to respond to a question? Because someone just may skim an email, but if you recorded your answer in a voice note, or if you did a quick video, then you've got that answer there to them. They're going to see your intonation. They're going to see your expression. So you're not going to get that confusion that comes with text where you don't know tone and people start to read things into it. But if they're actually talking to you, it's going to be, the audience is going to hear better. They're going to receive that information better. So it's a better experience to get that answer. But then you also have the benefit, you can repurpose that video or that audio into other legal information training kind of content in a whole bunch of different ways. So yeah, so I do emphasize the experience. That's another piece where I pull in legal design, that facet of service design or access to information. Or another experience was the deep work problem. So you and I have talked about this. I've done this for legal creatives where I saw that it's hard to do deep work. So that's where you're focused, really in depth, working on something. You're in that flow state. Most people, their days are the shallow state, where shallow work, you're sort of moving from one task to another. You're not fully engaged in one. It's meetings, it's notifications, distractions. So I put together the deep work sprint as sort of a solution to that, as a way to help people through different neuropsychological benefits to sort of pulled into that, to make that an environment where they could do deep work. And I'll say, if you're a fan of the deep work sprint, I can't say too much about it now, but something I'm working on is a solution to that remote work from home problems that lawyers find when it comes to not being engaged, or in a sense, lack of social interaction or spontaneous ability to have spontaneous conversations or bounce ideas off of people, but then also doing really good work. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that in a month.
We're going to talk about how to solve the work from home problem with legal design. Marty is working on an amazing solution, and I just can't wait to see this coming live, because I think this is going to be a relief for so many of us. Like, working from home can be great, but it can be really difficult too. So we have those ups and downs, and how can we kind of find a better, a better level of productivity, and also healthy state of mind and state of being. We have a lot of live attendees here. Sangeta was saying she's so happy to know about your journey, Marty. I see we have here someone, I think it's Isabel, I'm not sure, LinkedIn user. I took the certification training in August 2021 and is a member of the Academy. Learned a lot, still learning, 100% recommend. It boosted the career, landed a dream job. It's so true. Today I was talking to Anthony Novaes from Brazil. I met him in 2019 at a conference in Sao Paulo, where I was on stage and he was an attendee. He took the program with us. He joined the Academy. You probably have met him.
Yep.
He took the certification program, and today he's coordinating a course at this institute on legal design and insurance. Wow. So he moved from being an attendee at the event to coordinating and teaching the course on legal design and insurance, which I believe is the first. So yeah, you get to create your own dream job too, right? Just talking about that, I just want everybody to know that if you have an interest in getting a methodology that will allow you to systematically improve your customer experience, improve the services, and even the documents you get to create, the certification is coming on November 3rd, and it's going to be the last for the year. This is going to be your last opportunity for 2021. You won't be able to take this training until February 2022. And I think this will be a great opportunity for you if you feel this is something you want to do, to have a methodology and a toolkit to bring everything together and to be able to create either your own profession or internally to be a better influencer for this methodology, because it really works. You get the metrics to show that it actually works. Happy to answer any questions you may have on the training. Meanwhile, I see we have 2 questions here.
Great.
Marty, do you find any challenges in your legal design practice? And who do you work with? Who are the types of clients you work with? What is the type of work you do?
Okay. So I don't work. I saw the law firms there. I don't work with law firms. I've worked with in-house legal departments at software companies, university, actually mostly software companies.
Mostly low tech.
Yeah, so tech is a big
Techno.
space. So and they're smaller departments. So by and large, they're smaller legal departments. In terms of a challenge, well, one thing, and this is to be frank, the work of a consultant is more project based, and so it's not necessarily something that is an immediate problem that someone's going to pick up the phone or Google and search because it's an immediate legal issue. It's a little more long term. These are sort of larger problems. So the process to get people to come to you is not the same as immediate as if you were, say, just if I was just doing tech law and drafting terms of service for startups. Could be cranking that out all day, every day, and just be easily get a whole bunch of clients, but it's not what I want to do. And so when I do contract design, it's a more methodical kind of process to actually draft it better, not the quick and dirty, but it's that deeper way from. So that's more a company that's at a later stage or a scale up stage at least, and knows that it needs to make that investment in time and resources to have that done. I hope that answers people's questions. So
Yeah, I love that. I think it makes sense, right? You can either decide to deliver kind of quicker kind of services and have some kind of templates, although it's quite hard to have templates in legal design because it's all about your users. But I'm pretty sure they are legal designers who have figured out a way to create some kind of templates for a niche audience. So as long as you serve audience which has the same needs, then you can really scale this kind of business by really quickly making those templates available and offering a service to adjust the templates, of course. But that is only if you have a niche audience that is sharing the same kind of needs and who has the same kind of background and like thinking. As for the project space, I agree with you. I think this is more long-term strategy, but I find it also much more exciting to be able to, really get to work as a partner with your client, to be able to achieve some meaningful outcomes that would be a more substantial investment, but that will bring tangible results.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty?
I'll say, so when I talk about so prior to putting out the label legal designer and offering sort of that lens for what I do, my market was always the same. So I haven't changed who my target market is, being smaller in-house teams. So so that's not to say you can't do legal design differently for different audiences in different ways. I'm just now through that lens, that mindset, that toolkit, bringing that to my target market. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what is your next step and how we can help you as well, Marty.
Sure. So I got a couple of things I could plug and say. So one is I have a weekly newsletter that goes out on Wednesdays. It's called With Less. And so this is a collection of insights, tips, actual ways of doing things, and curated links to help legal, and I use that term broadly, do more with less, because we all hear that mantra. So it's primarily targeted at the in-house market, but if you're in private practice, if you're in legal tech, there's still benefits to you. The themes that issues cover are legal tech, legal ops, legal design, work-life environment, some sort of self-improvement tips, productivity tips. Go to withless.legal. And you could sign up right there. So that and it's a free newsletter.
Yeah, I was about to share the link and I just got out of the studio. I'm back. So
okay, so that's one thing. I will say, just I'll pitch it here. I'm still sort of refining it, but when it comes to the legal design side, so we talked about the long-term project, and I kind of stepped back and thought, well, what's a different way to offer my service in a more easier access way to my client base? And so I'm coming up with, I have a subscription model, call it the Sidekick model. So there, for a set fee, the the clients will get access to me, my time, so a quarterly strategy call, and then they have access to unlimited quick calls. So if they want to bounce an idea off of me, or they need a gut check, or even if they want to talk about a substantive issue, because I still am a lawyer with licensed lawyer and have the insurance and all that, we could do that. And so they get that sort of sidekick aspect, but as a way to sort of easier access. They don't have to wait to have a big project to do that. So if anyone's interested in that, go to send me an email. I'll put up my contact info.
Yeah, please put your contact info and the website link. It will be super useful. If you have something you want to share, this would be a great time to share. And I'm going to invite the audience to connect with Marty for anything you need in relation to legal design, innovation, tech law, legal ops, legal docs, and sign up for the newsletter withless.legal. Nice name. Love that. I'm also a subscriber of the newsletter. I love receiving it and getting some great tips and valuable insights from Marty. Make sure to connect with him on LinkedIn. We are right here on LinkedIn. We're also on YouTube and Facebook. But connect with Marty on LinkedIn, or here you have his Twitter and Instagram account. This is so great. Yes, Marty?
And if you want to hear me talk a lot more about contract design, so in a week and a half, I'm doing a live webinar on Wednesday. I think I'm trying to remember the specific date of the week, but it's a week Wednesday. And so I'll be doing that on contract design, sort of talking about how contract design could get you to the promised land of better contracts. So you could, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see some posts there. And so doing that with a big fan of legal design, Olga Mack. So talking about that. And so there I'll be talking about how do you make the business case for contract design? What are the benefits? What is and isn't contract design? And then sharing some quick tips to how to get started with contract design.
This is great. Love it. So make sure to register for the newsletter with Less.
Subscribe. I love it.
This is great.
And
also to those of you who want to be more involved in this, do not miss this opportunity to be a certified legal design professional. The training is coming up on November 3rd. It's a 16-hour immersive experience you're going to take with me and with other professionals from around the world, such as Marty, who took it back, I think it was in May this year.
Yeah.
And was it in May? I think so.
It seems like a lifetime ago.
I know.
in a good way, because it feels like one of those things that's so good it's always been there, that training. So yeah, I'll say, like, without that training, I wouldn't have the smile that I do on my face in terms of the work that I'm doing now, and I wouldn't have the confidence to be putting myself out there as much as I do, because now I know it validated assumptions, best way to put it, in terms of those little bits that I had in my background. It pulled it together, validated it, and gave me sort of some theory and structure to now present it, have the confidence to go out and do these things that might have been a little more instinctual before. So
this is such a great feedback. I totally agree. This is great for those of you who want to do this in a professional and systematic manner, not relying just on instinct or intuition, which is great as well, but having a structured methodology, also having a community to support you on this journey with whom you can share some insights, you can get to practice with them. And so I really encourage you to check out the certification program, because it's starting in just 5 days. And it's going to be, I have no doubt, a life-changing event for you, because it has been for so many professionals. So don't take my word for it. Marty has experienced it. And you can see now he's about to launch a great initiative. We'll talk more about that next month. And he's working now. I mean, I love what you do. It's so amazing. And that's what the world needs. The world needs lawyers who are able to think a little bit more creatively, to be able to bring more value to the user. That's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. We really want to make law be perceived as something that is really valuable, because it really is. But the fact that it got so complicated in terms of word and legalese and processes, we just don't, people don't perceive the value of it anymore. And so I think this is a great way to kind of rebrand the law and rebrand legal professionals at the same time. Make sure to connect with Marty. I don't know if you can see here his contact info. Don't forget to connect with Marty. And don't forget to check the legalcreatives.com website so you can save your spot.
Could I say one more thing about
Please, go ahead.
So I think you've done such a great job of pulling together such a great cohort or academy of users. So by this, I'm saying the people who are there are just brilliant, doing amazing work. And so everyone there contributes to the goodwill, the great brand of the Legal Creatives Expert certification. So there's a lot of strength in that because of the community you've brought together. So having that certification really says something because of the quality, and I'm not including that company, the quality of the people that are there who have taken this and are out advocating for legal design, doing the work, coming up with the creative things, and the fact that it's international. So put all that together, it's a great brand to have. So, you know, that's that. I'll put that little push for someone who's on the fence, might be on the fence to sign up for the upcoming course. But it's, if you're interested in it, have that if nothing else, just to have the certification, because you know that brand means a lot. But then don't disregard it. Be true to that brand and what it brings and that certification. So yeah.
Thanks, Marty. This is really great to hear your feedback and to get your take on this. And we take a lot of pride in the people that take the program. And we feel lucky and blessed that we have such great quality of people who take the program. And I think the reason maybe is because the format, again, is so engaging. You cannot escape and hide in the corner and hope to get certified. This is not what this certification is about. It's really a process you have to go through. You have to go through each of the steps. You have to practice each of the steps. Some steps you practice twice and even 3 times in the course of 4 days, because this is so important to the legal design methodology. And we want you to be able to do this in the most professional way. And the reason why this certification was created is because personally, I got so frustrated seeing like who in the world is a good legal designer. You don't really know for sure because you just hear people talk about how supposedly great they are. But how do we know for sure that they are so great? They often don't have a portfolio. They often don't have a lot of like depth into what they say. So you're never really sure. So I was like, we need to have standards. So we're going to bring the research we have done. We're going to create an incredible training to make sure that people. And so we also, I feel more comfortable to, work with you guys, because I know what you have gone through. I know you can do this, and you've done this with we didn't talk about your comic book contract, but Marty did a great comic book contract with Isabel right there. I was like, wow, this is so mind blowing. We had Marina do an automated comic book contract. By the way, Alana is using this contract in her law firm today.
That's
so
great.
I'm like, we hired Alana to deliver training with us in Brazil, because we're like, we know you guys know how to do this. You know what you're doing. So this is so exciting for us as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty, for being there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It was great to
Thank you to all the live attendees. Thank you to the replay viewers. If you feel this talk was useful, make sure to share it with your network, share it with a friend, tag a friend or a colleague who may be interested in legal design, innovation, legal ops, legal docs, creativity, all of those great things, connecting the dots, moving from Napster to the metaverse. This is going to be interesting to see how law is going to fit into that as well. Thanks again, Marty. It's been a joy to have you. And I'll see you again on the show next month for a special episode. So if you're general counsel in a small firm, this is going to be for you. So make sure to tune in. And I'll see you very soon, Marty. I'll see you very soon for some great projects.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's great to talk about who doesn't love talking about themselves?
For sure. Right. It's always nice. Let me try to see if I can pull a video here for everybody to watch before we go. A nice video so you can get to see a little bit what people say about the certification. Thank you so much, Marty, for being there.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody, for being live. It's been a joy to have you. Marty's story is so incredibly inspiring. Make sure to follow Marty if you have not yet done so. And let me show you a really short video testimonial from the people who have taken the certification. It's coming up November 3rd, online and live with me and other attorneys from all around the world at legalcreatives.com.
The things that I like the most is, first of all, that you have a great teacher. Tessa, you're really inspiring, and whenever you're on the certification with you, it's like really great to have you there.
Also, it was a fantastic experience to meet people from all over the world and get different viewpoints on legal design and how people want to use these new skills that they're learning all over the world. So it was an incredibly enriching experience.
You have like a community, you have like an ecosystem where you can learn, you have challenges, you meet a lot of people, you are constantly having different lessons and different approaches, and it was super nice and a very creative environment.
And I'm glad that I am part of this Legal Creatives community. And well, this is great. I'm happy.
Being part of the Legal Creatives community, it's such a great experience because you can get in contact with lawyers from all over the world. I think in my certification program, there were lawyers from Canada, from France, or Latin America, from South Africa, from Morocco, Italy, Luxembourg. It was great to know that the legal industry all over the world is changing, and it's reaching new methodologies.
What I really like about your certification is that you really teach us like the specific tools and skills and methodology that any attorney can use to carry out legal design projects on their own.
Most recently, I completed the Expert Practitioner course, which really helped put you in the position of what you would be doing in practice and helps you prepare for doing it yourself.
Yeah, at the end, I got my certification, which is also something really good about the academy because, well, it's good to know that what you have done and all the effort, and it's placed somewhere and it has a value. So yeah, I got this certification, and this certification also let me find a job in legal design.
I highly recommend Legal Creatives and the courses to anyone who's looking to take a new approach to law and to use creativity to come up with new solutions for their clients.